Here are 5 British pronunciation hacks, how to bridge the gap between spellings and speech. Now you'd hope that within any one language what's written on the page has something to do with the way to pronounce it, but in British English it's not the case. So here are your 5 must-know things that will help you to feel much clearer and much more confident in terms of your pronunciation. Now I unpack all of this information in much more detail underneath this post on my website, englishpronunciationroadmap.com, so head over there and I'll unpack most of this stuff. So this is going to come pretty quick and pretty fast. So here's number 1. You only need to pronounce an R, a written R, if it's followed by a spoken vowel sound. So it means that we would say the R in words like real and rotten and ran, but not in words like feather or weather or Peter. Number 2 is that you shouldn't pronounce every single written G, especially when it's written as an NG, and even more specifically when it's an NG at the end of a word. So for instance, we wouldn't say bring and sang and sing, but bring, sang and sing. Point number 3 is that there are some trustworthy spellings, and this is particularly relevant for vowel sounds, which are, in my opinion, the most confusing. Now, these spellings only work when they're on the stressed syllable of the word. So, for instance, IR is a trustworthy spelling. It's pronounced as as in words like shirt and girl and birth. Number 2 is UE. Which is pronounced as oo, as in blue and true and glue. Number 3 is OI, which is pronounced as oi, as in words like coil and void. Number 4 is OY, as in boy and toy and koi. It's pronounced as oi. And number 5 is ORE, which is pronounced or, as in words like more and saw and before. So point number 4 is that you should always stress the vowel sound and never the consonant. So for instance, car, alarm, hurt, girl, annoy, command, but you should never stress the consonant, which would make words like man sound a bit more like man, and vase a bit more like vaz, and van a bit more like van. Now some people do this in a much more subtle way, but you need to avoid it. And the last point, number 5, and I've saved the best till last, is something called lexical sets. So what we'd hope is that we could bank on the spelling being as some kind of clear indication of how to pronounce the word, so then we could just bank words together in terms of their spelling. But as we've said, the spelling and the pronunciation are at odds. So a guy called John Wells came up with this thing called lexical sets, and he suggested that within any one accent, what if you could group words in terms of the pronunciation of the stressed vowel sound in a word. So for instance, in standard British English, words like car, alarm, laugh, sergeant, heart, even though they're spelt very differently, they all belong in one group. They're all in one lexical set. Now, wouldn't it be great if you knew which words belonged in which lexical sets, and then it would be really clear in terms of how to pronounce the words, the vowel sounds in that group. So what I've done is I've sought 850 of the most common everyday English words that me and you are using all day long, and I've put them into their lexical sets. What I've also done is I've drawn some diagrams about how the lip should be and how the position of the tongue, and I've also recorded 40 minutes of audio covering all of these 850 words. And this is a free download that I've created. It's called British English Pronunciation Crash Course. And it really is. If you can master these 850 words, which you're using all day long, then you're going to be so much more confident and so much more clear in everyday conversations. So that's a download that's at the bottom of this blog post over on my website. So head over there now. It's englishpronunciationroadmap.com. Read more about this video underneath, the explanation underneath, and click this free download and get started today.